Hello and welcome to Surfing Your Edge. I am Kristine Goad, your Surfing Your Edge Live, your Surfing Your Edge coach. And I am here today with my guest, Tosh Patterson, who I am extremely excited to introduce to you. Welcome, Tosh, and thank you so much for being with me.
So happy to be here with you and your audience.
Thank you. Let me tell you a little bit about Tosh. She is a life coach and a retreat leader who works with smart, motivated professional women who, despite their impressive career success, are feeling stressed out, burned out, and uninspired. Her clients are yearning to slow down, to work less, and reduce stress, and Tosh is fiercely committed to helping them learn how to simplify and enjoy life's pleasures without feeling guilty. And when I read that about Tosh and learned what she was doing, I knew I had to share her with you because I know you need her. I need her. And when I first met Tosh and invited her to be on the show, we were in the early stages of COVID-19 stay-at-home orders, and things felt pretty stressful. And she seemed to be the perfect guest to talk with me about that. And actually, things have only gotten more complicated and more stressful since then. So I'm really glad to have her here today. So before we talk about the really tough stuff, though, I would like to invite Tosh to tell me a little bit about her business and how COVID-19 changed things for her. Before COVID hit, we were both leading retreats, and she was well ahead of me on that path and was already leading several retreats a year. And now she's had to put an end to that for the foreseeable future. So Tosh, can you tell me a little bit about how your vision and your business are changing as a result?
You know, this is such a great question, and I've been thinking about it. And the prior to COVID, I was really wanting to host numerous in-person retreats, and I had taken women to Bali and Colombia, like all these different places. And for 2020, I had 3 other retreats planned, and they were all underway. COVID hit, pivot, and now reimagining what does the retreat life look like. And I had this realization that I really am still committed to the transformation that comes out of retreating, including not only being in person, which is really rich and juicy, right? To be in a circle with women who are like-minded and like in it together to solve and have a breakthrough in the area of life. But I hosted a virtual retreat a few weeks ago, and we ended up with 37 participants. And so that was a signal to me that people are still committed to their transformation and working through life, right? Because even though COVID is here, you still have problems, you still have relationships, you still have things that you want to improve and work on. So for me, it's opened me up to this idea that my message and community can exist virtually in a way that really wasn't even possible before COVID, because people didn't have the knowledge of tools like Zoom and webinar, go to webinar, and so it's like this environment is ripe for people being open to connecting across the globe, really. And so that's really exciting. And my ultimate vision really is to be able to create a community of women who are just ready to slow down and let go of overworking and that push mentality. And I think that the experience of being in this pandemic globally has forced people into that place, and they're realizing, man, I really needed this,
Right.
and didn't even know that I needed it. So, and I'm not trying to. So I know that some people have experienced devastation as a result of COVID, right? Like they've lost means and jobs, and there have been extreme things. However, the people that we're talking to right now, your audience, my audience, are people who still are working remotely and having to navigate that work-life balance even through the pandemic. But because they're forced to be at home, it's allowing the space to slow down and reevaluate and reset and reconsider, what do I really want? Like, what's my heart's truest desire? So all of that to say that, the vision that I have for my business now is almost more expansive, because I don't have to go to Bali or Mexico or Costa Rica or, the Hamptons to have these transformational conversations and connections with a group of like-minded women. They can happen in a group of 30 on Zoom.
I love that. And it just reminds me that sometimes putting constraints on yourself, or, creativity grows when there are fewer options. And I just think that this is one of those instances where it just, it closed one door but opened up a giant new window kind of thing.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is, I still, in the beginning, I had a lot of doubt and fear, because my retreat-based business was really all word of mouth and connection and all of that. But in order for me to pivot from word of mouth, retreat-based business to now we're virtual, then I have to show up more online and be seen and be visible. And so that's a little scary. And then I have my doubts, like, am I doing it right? Does this make sense? Does this resonate with people? And so it's exciting, and I have my moments of being scared, but it is certainly worth it, because as I've had more quiet time to reflect and think about what's important to me, I think that people want these connections, and people want these spaces to have really good and meaningful conversations. So I have to be willing to let go of the doubts and the fears and move forward and hold the space for this community of people to come together and do the work, so that they can really be living and loving life.
Yes, absolutely. I love all of that. And you hit exactly on the theme of this show, surfing your edge and stepping out there and playing a bigger game and being more visible. And your feet are being held to the fire, and you're being held out there longer maybe than you wanted to be. Maybe before you'd go out and try something and go, oh, that was nice, and shrink back to your smaller, regular, safer. And now you're like having to stay out there. So do you have anything that you do in particular to keep yourself staying out there, aside from the fact that you've got an audience demanding it?
Yeah, but I think even if you don't have an audience or what have you, it's still this bigger question of, like, what do I want my life to be? Like, what do I want to experience? And I was just having this conversation with my husband last night, like, okay, what's your vision? Like, what do you want to see for yourself and for us, together in the next couple of years, and trying to keep that alive. So I think that's a version of staying out there, is being honest about your desires. And I think as women, sometimes there are things that we want, but we don't say that we want that thing, because we feel like we need to be humble, or I shouldn't want that, or I should be satisfied, right? And so I feel like sharing your vision with others in your life is one way of keeping yourself out there. Um, I think another way of keeping yourself out there is just, and this, I don't know if this will sound counterintuitive, but really making this time and space to either meditate or have quiet time, because you have to keep connected to yourself, and you have to keep checking in to what's important to me right now. I said I wanted that thing, but do I still want that thing? So reconciling what you said you wanted versus what you have now, is that this path you still want to be on? Because I think the way we get sucked into comfort zones and to being like numb and just on the path unknowingly, is because we aren't doing these things to check in. We don't have a vision, or we're not having quiet time on a regular basis to like really hear your voice. And I know that can be challenging when you have social media the news, friends and family, and you're getting all these voices and they're piled on top of you, and you have to, you know, uncover, is that what I want, or is that what somebody told me I'm supposed to want? You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that, the, you know, the constant checking in for what you want, what you need. And then also, I'm thinking that, you know, COVID and the social protests that are going on, both of those things to me seem to be giving us an invitation to consider what we want for our lives individually and communally going forward. And I'm really hoping, you know, people have been calling this the great pause, but I'm really hoping it's the great reset, and that
Hmm.
we all take it and take this time to think about what's important to us and how we want to show up in the world. And what I'm encouraging people to do is to actually write that down, and write down your reasons for why you're choosing it. Because I think as the world starts to open up again and things go back to normal, um, we're more likely to forget why we chose that, and it's going to feel less important, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like the other part of that is I've personally been struggling with this term, the new normal,
Hmm.
because I'm like, well, I don't I don't quite know what normal will be after this, because I feel like we're at this tipping point, even as a society, about what is status quo.
Yeah.
Like, people are so pushing against the status quo and against society scripts that we've had in play for so long, consciously and unconsciously. And so I just feel like, well, burn the script. Like, all the things from the past, like, we're gonna let those things go. And even we can do that as individuals, right? Like, maybe who I was last week, last year, pre-COVID, that person can doesn't have to come back as normal, so to speak. Like, I can create something new. And so I think the new normal is like, what is your personal barometer about what's the new normal? Because I feel like, you know, with people working from home as a result of this, the you know, racial and social protests, all the things, I'm not quite sure what normal is going to be over here. But I do hope that when people get over here to this side after we get through the pandemic, that they don't return to feeling overwhelmed, overworked, mindless, going through the motions, because now we've had over, what, 90 days
Hmm.
to reevaluate and reset and refocus. And hopefully you can squeeze a lesson out of this and take it into your whatever the new normal is as a way of life, and not just something that was limited to this quarantine time.
Absolutely. um, I'm going a little bit off script here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what you said just reminded me. I did a cross country bike trip when I was 29, and I felt like it was called the Big Ride Across America, and I felt like there was the big ride me, and then there was the normal me. And as soon as the big ride ended, I didn't know how to bring the big ride me into the world. I just
Mhm.
felt like she was not going to be accepted, you know. And I feel like I really hadn't made that connection until you brought that up. So thank you. That it might be hard to reconcile who you are now with who you've been and who you expect that you might need to go back to being.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's so, and you know, one of the things I've been doing over the last few weeks is interviewing women just to see, what's your experience like as a result of COVID. You know, let's talk about pre-COVID and now, because we haven't even gotten to post 100%. And the themes that are coming up are quite interesting. I've interviewed like 12 people, and what you just said is one of the things that people are dealing with. Like, how do you reconcile who you were before this, and now you're a little bit calmer, depending on your variables, right? Kids, no kids, older kids, smaller kids, all these things. But, you know, making this distinction of like, I get to choose if I'm going to take all of this into whatever post pandemic life looks like.
Yeah.
And people are really kind of in that place of reset, reevaluation, reconsider, um, and getting closer to their desires because there are fewer distractions, which I think is beautiful, you know, to really have those things coming forward. Like, okay, I forgot I wanted to do that thing 10 years ago and I never made time for it. Or, oh, I forgot that I actually like to, you know, plant things around my house and I just didn't have time for it, you know? So, yeah, so I'll stop there.
No, no, no. I love it. This could also be the great rediscovery.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I know when you led the retreat you spoke about earlier, the virtual retreat that you did, you called that your Black Goddess retreat, and you were helping women build a foundation of sacred practices during COVID, which I think is amazing. And in those retreats, you looked at what does pleasure look like right now? And first, I just have to ask, you know, do we have the right to ask what pleasure looks like right now? And if so, what you've learned from asking that question?
Oh wow, it's such a big, you know, there's so many layers of it, but if I were to boil it down to like its most essential nugget, I would say that yes, now is the time for pleasure. And as women, we often kind of put so many things off to the side for the future. Like, oh, when my kids are bigger, when I have more money, when I'm thinner, when I'm whatever, I will do said thing. And, you know, now that we're in these times, this pandemic, a lot of the things that we could turn to are not there anymore. And so pleasure, asking yourself, what does pleasure look like for me right now when I can't shop, which is what some people do, and I can't go out and eat, and I can't go out and have a massage or whatever. What brings me pleasure? And something that I can do now for myself, and it's not for anyone else. And I think the key element, the key nugget is just really giving yourself permission to do the things that you enjoy
Yeah.
and to not put them off. I mean, and there was amazing simple things people like to do, like gardening, cooking, coloring, dancing, walking, hiking. And then I would ask, well, how long has it been since you've done those things? Because this was early on in COVID. And
Right.
people were like, oh my gosh, I haven't done that in months, years, weeks. And so it was just like, well, okay, now you can give yourself permission to do that. Like you can close your office door and end your work day at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and go do that thing. And, you know, tell people dinner's on the table or whatever you got to do to make yourself a priority. But what ultimately came out of that conversation, the one of the main themes was prioritizing yourself and not feeling guilty about it. Because if you're a mom or a student or a business owner or whoever, you know, you're worth self-care at the end of the day. And with everything that's going on in the world, between COVID, on top of these social and racial protests, you have to pour into and nurture yourself at this time because it can be so mentally depleting on all sides to constantly be plugged into the news, to, you know, have all of this fear bubbling up in you, because that's what it does. It's really rocking our most foundational elements of safety and security.
Right.
And so you have to pour back into yourself. So more than anything, it's like give yourself permission to explore what does pleasure mean to me right now. Give yourself permission to unplug from the media for a couple days or several hours. Give yourself permission to do the things that feel good to you because you have to take care of you. You have to get through this journey called life.
Mhm.
And if you're not prioritizing yourself, if you're not prioritizing what's important to you for this time in your life, it's detrimental to you, you know, because all of the things that we do have an impact on our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and just the simple act of prioritizing your self-care and your pleasure is restorative.
Absolutely. And this is a great time to figure out, to remember who you are, or to explore new things, and to set up practices and rituals that you will carry forward. They don't have to take a lot of time or a lot of focus once you've figured out what they are and built them in. But this is the time to really create the space for them and fill it with things that bring you joy. And, I just feel like COVID hit and the whole world exploded, and oh my gosh. And then it's just been more and more and more. And I feel like as we're reopening, it's actually adding more stress than
Yeah,
less stress, because
yeah,
now you're on your own to figure out, well, what does my safety require? And how do
yeah,
I want to go out in the world? And how am I going to take care of myself out there, regardless of how everyone else is behaving? And it just feels like, I thought naively that it was going to get easier, and it's not getting easier.
yeah, yeah. So, and that, to your point, is it highlighting the importance of having your own boundaries, your own threshold for what's okay, what feels good, and being a little bit self-reliant. And I'm not saying that in a flippant kind of way, but like, it's really requiring us to come back to our own individual knowing
Mm-hmm.
and intuition in a way that we have not had to do in a very, very long time.
Right, right. I love that. Um, Getting back to the um, the sacred practices, I know you have um, a practice that you were going to share with us.
Yes, I would love to um, share this practice. So, typically, I should have said this earlier, like one of the practices that we talked about on retreat was, like creating a morning and an evening ritual.
Nice.
And doing, again, it always comes back to what makes sense for you, your circumstances, all of those variables, because you want to start and end the day with intentionality and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I want to teach and share today is around how to create a nurturing workspace specifically for your office. So if you work from home or if you have to go out to the office, you know, what can you do so that you feel centered, you feel grounded? And the concept that I teach around this is around thinking about your office space as your recharging station. It's a place where after you have these like challenging conversations or sometimes you just have rubs that happen in the office, right? Either customers or coworkers or whatever, and you get frazzled. So after about 20 years of working in corporate America, I created this format. And so I just call it the 5 tools for self-care at work. And these are the 5 tools that basically help you zen your office, help you stay grounded. And so the first one, it seems so simple and obvious, but is to have a glass specifically for water. So mine has some crystal light in there, but to have a water and have some kind of thermos or something that you can keep some water in. Oh, you're on my team. I love it. So that you can remember to drink water. Water can just be a moment for you to catch your breath and just kind of regroup and let go of that stress you might be feeling in your shoulders or in that
Mm-hmm.
pit in your stomach. So if you just take a drink of water, inhale, exhale, okay, let me go to the next thing. So that's the first tool that you can use for your self-care at work. The second one is having a lamp in your space. So I have a lamp on my desk that you can't see, and I also have a lamp behind me. And when you are sometimes in corporate environments, they have those nasty overhead lights, and those lights actually are draining for your eyes. So if you have a lamp that's on your desk, it helps your eyes basically. If you're working from home, you want to sit next to a window so that you have enough light coming in that you don't strain your eyes. And then this is something that I have been really sharing with people during this work from home period is for your eye health, make sure you schedule your work in 90-minute clumps. So work for 90 minutes and then set an alarm or a reminder to take a quick 10-minute break so that your eyes can rest. When you are staring at a computer screen for a long time, beyond 90 minutes, your eyes can start to dry out. And it's something that I was experiencing. And this is a recommendation from the eye doctor, is to take these 90-minute incremental breaks. So the lamp will help, taking the breaks will help. So that's number two. Number three is having some fresh flowers or some plants in your office space, because they can be like very sterile and kind of unwelcoming. And as you can see behind me, I have a couple different plants. I also have one hanging here in front of the window. But when I was going into the office every week, on Monday morning, I would stop at the local grocery store on my way to work and pick up like a $5 bouquet of flowers for my desk at work. And the flowers were just like a way to brighten my mood and cheer myself up, just coming into my office space every day. And then my coworkers be like, oh, those flowers are so beautiful. Or sometimes my husband would send me a surprise bouquet, which is really nice. And so, between plants and flowers is just a way to add some texture and variety and some hominess to your office space. And then the next thing is to have essential oils. So I don't know, hopefully you guys can see those. That's lavender and citrus here. And so with essential oils, if you're not familiar with them, you can, there's some made for your skin, and you can just put a couple drops in your hand, rub your hands together, and then inhale it when you come back from a stressful meeting. And that's a tool I was using frequently, and I had a little set of essential oils on the table that myself and coworkers could use. If you have your own office where you can close your door and not disturb others, I would encourage you to get a diffuser. So behind me, you see this white diffuser, and I have that here in my office that I'll turn on for a little bit every day to just help with the overall mood and aroma of the space. And I did that when I was in corporate America, and I do it now as I'm working from home. And then the last thing is to have some type of calming music to set the mood. And there's Spotify, and there's Pandora, and there's even your own phone, your iPhone. And so you could either have it streaming from your desktop, or if you want it like more of a, like, you can hear it better, because sometimes the speakers on the computer can be muffled. This is just a little mini speaker, and it's pretty powerful. You can get these on Amazon for like $20, and you can keep it on your desk and control the volume, and then it'll connect to your phone, and you can have really calming music in your office. So in summary, the 5 things are a water glass, a lamp, flowers or a plant, a diffuser and or essential oils, and then calming music. And so these are the 5 tools that you can use to begin to zen your office and create this environment, because your office space is where you are for like at least 6 to 8 hours a day. So why not make it a place where you feel like you can come back and be replenished and have some peace despite the stress of the workday.
Yeah, I love all of it. And especially the citrus. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's so wonderful. It like brightens your mood.
Exactly, exactly. And for if you're wondering what calming music is, if you've never had to go looking for that, if you listen to, I don't do well with music that has words in it. I can't work and listen. So I listen to, I think it's on Pandora. I just searched nature sounds with music, and you'll get rain and birds and sometimes thunderstorms, and it's just so nice to kind of remind yourself, and it goes back to the plants and the flowers, kind of reminds you that you're not just a being in a box, but you're part of nature as well.
Yeah, yeah. And Kristine, the other one that I just remembered, I don't, I did this for myself, but I know this may not be an option for everyone. But I brought in artwork too, because there was a time where I was really working like 60 hours a week. I was at work a lot. And so I had some motivational, what do you call those, the sticky things you can put on the walls and like remove them with lettering. I,
Oh,
I bought them from Etsy, and they said like, girl, yes you can, and stuff like that. So I had a couple of those, and then I had a really beautiful art piece that I looked at, and I would just be like, okay, I'm okay, and that really helped me too. And so in my home office, this piece here is from Haiti when we went on retreat a couple of years ago. So I do think art can be another element if you're a visual person. And
I agree.
yeah.
Nice. You've said a couple of times that we need to give ourselves permission to do the things that we need to do for ourselves. And I know that you and I believe, we share the same belief that we know what to do for ourselves, but we're not doing those things. And I'm just wondering, what um, what do you think gets in the way of that? Why don't we let ourselves do the things that we want to do?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I think it's short list. I think one of the reasons why, and what I'm finding from talking to so many women lately, is that, you feel like there's this script of who you have to show up to be as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a employee, as a fill in the blank, right? And so
Absolutely.
there's this script, either spoken or unspoken, and you feel like you need to acquiesce to the things on that script. So that's why I've been saying, burn the script, girl, burn the script.
I love it.
But we feel, so that gets in the way, is there's this script. I think the other thing that gets in the way is that we haven't exercised the muscle to say no more frequently, because many women are people pleasers. And so we say yes because we want to keep the peace and make people happy, but we say yes sometimes at our own expense.
Mhm.
And and sometimes even not having the courage to say no. Like, yeah, maybe you can't, in this environment that we're living in, you've been working on your computer all day, and then some friends invite you to a Zoom happy hour at 6:30, and you want to see your friends because you can't see them in person, but you're tired. Say no to the Zoom happy hour. But sometimes that can be challenging because we want to, again, be people pleasers. So I
Mhm.
think, saying no gets in the way, and then living into this script. I think these are the two most common ways that we get in our own way.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a learned behavior to move away from those things, to
Mhm.
start creating your own, life by design, so to speak, creating your own script, creating what's good for you, what do you enjoy, and then saying no based on what's a priority for you in your life right now. So not just saying no to say no, but saying no because you don't want to do things that are out of alignment with what's important to you right now. So even me personally, right now I'm really focused on some health goals, and I was recently invited to do some social things that I'm like, well, no, that's not in alignment with my health goals, so I'm going to say no to that. So saying no with purpose and
Mhm.
with confidence.
Yes. And realizing that saying no is actually a saying yes to something bigger and something more aligned. You know, it gives you the space to do what you need to do to be you.
Yeah, yeah. And saying no can be also saying yes to you for whatever other things you have going on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I know that we haven't gotten to this organically, so I'm just going to say it. If you go to Tasha's website, you'll see that at the very top, work less, travel more. So I know that working less is important to Tosh, and helping you work smart rather than, just filling your hours or doing all of the things that you think you need to do that you may not really need to do. So Tosh, do you want to say anything more about your admonition to the rest of us to work less?
I think it again goes back to I think we're in a culture collectively that touts like more is better,
Yes.
and more, in my experience, isn't better. Working 60 hours a week, not better. um, Putting myself at the bottom of the to-do list, not better. And so I came to this place of work less to mean, am I working in alignment with what I'm seeing as the vision for myself and the priorities for myself in different areas of life, with my
Mhm.
money, with my health, with my marriage, with my friendships and relationships. And so I have a couple people, and I say, you're on team too much. You're doing too much. You're spinning too many plates. And then we start to feel guilty, or we drop a plate and we feel bad. And it's because you can't spin 8 plates. So, what season are you in your life right now? Like, are you in the season of really being involved with your kids? Are you in a season of your kids are leaving the house so you can cultivate some hobbies and things? Are you in the season of needing to take care of your parents? Like, what season are you in? And based on that season, what are the things that you feel you need to be doing right now? And limit those to like 2 or 3 things. You cannot do all the things. You can, over your lifetime, you can do all the things, but in one moment, you cannot do all the things. And so that's one of the um, areas where I work with my clients quite a bit. They're ambitious and they're driven, and they want to take on the world, and they have like 7 plates spinning. And I'm like, you got to choose a couple. I know you want all of them, but you have to choose so that you can really dial in on those and do them well. And once you choose those and they make sense to you and they're in alignment with you, then you're working less just inherently as a result of choosing those few. And so that's a big mindset shift.
Mhm.
And as Americans, we just want to take on all the things all the time, go, go, go. But I don't think that's good for your long-term mental or emotional health, to constantly be in motion and on the go like that. I think you need time to decompress. I think you need time to connect with yourself. I think you need time to um, just explore and see what's out there for you and have fun. This constant work, work, work is just, it's not serving us in the long term.
Yes.
So that's my call to action, sisters, is to work less and to really, like think about what's in alignment with me right now, and what am I choosing right now? Where do I want to invest my time and energy right now? And
Mhm.
really be invested in it and not scattered doing all these different things, because that creates overwhelm, because your brain's constantly on, right? Like, you have a list for work, and you have a list for your kids, and you have a list for your family, and you have a list and a list and a list and a list, and these post-it notes everywhere,
Yes.
because you're scattered. But when you're focused on just a couple things and you let go of that other stuff, now you can be in alignment, now you can be satisfied, now you can be focused and do what matters for you right now.
I am so glad I met you, Tosh. I I feel like I just have so many things that we could talk about. But one of the things that just brought out for me that I've never quite thought about this way before, but you're saying you've got 7 or 8 plates spinning, and you think that's abundance, right? You've got it all. But what
Yes.
is more abundant is the understanding that if you concentrate on 3 or 4 of those, or just a couple of those, and understand that the rest will come, that's
Yes.
a more abundant mindset. It's
Yes.
it's a counterintuitive, but it's trusting that it's all going to be there for you. It's all there. You don't have to race. You can breathe. You don't have to go get it all right now.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
love that. You gave me
You're
this
not missing
light
out.
bulb.
Oh, I'm so glad. And look, we're kindred spirits. Because really, at the end of the day, the whole concept that you're teaching around surfing your edge and being uncomfortable, for some people, doing less, not being busy,
Yeah.
is the uncomfort, right? Or the discomfort.
Right.
Because some people are so accustomed to being busybodies and doing it and moving. But to be with yourself is what's uncomfortable and going to take you to the next level for your life, for your business, for whatever's next, right? And so I think that all of this really kind of like dovetails together quite nicely. And at the end of the day, you have to keep questioning, like, am I just doing all of these things out of habit, out of an unconscious autopilot, or am I choosing to do this
Yeah.
because it's serving some bigger, greater good?
Right.
Um, so
Yes, and that leads us up to the package I know you offer is called Get More Me Time. And I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a little bit about that.
At the end of the day, the Get More Me Time came because so many people struggle with having too many things on their calendars or not understanding what's on the calendar. So I really help people get into alignment, get refocused, and determine what's your vision for this coming year
Mm.
and what truly needs to be on your calendar. So we try to take a lot of stuff off and leave on the important stuff. And it's a 90-minute session. I do an evaluation beforehand. We have a 90-minute session where we talk through some things, and then we have a follow-up. And, women have enjoyed having that kind of strategic thinking about their year and about where they are spending their energy. So
Mhm.
it's a really, really great session that pushes people, but it is so worthwhile at the end of the day because you know that you're doing the things that matter most. Because, when you look back on your life, does it matter that you spent time filing papers, or does it matter that you made your kids games? Or does it matter that you did these family events? Or reconnect to what matters. That's what the Get More Me Time session is about. And I help people uncover that for themselves.
I love that. Thank you so much. That just sounds amazing. And I can imagine that if you work with Tosh, you're going to be in amazing, great, capable hands. So I hope you will look for her. Her website is toshpatterson.com, and I'm going to put that in the show notes so you'll be able to find it. And Tosh, I've so loved this conversation. I'm sure we're going to talk again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for holding the space for other women to show up and surf their edge and really kind of keep coming back to that question of what do I get out of being uncomfortable? And I think it's living a life you love is what you get. So
Thank you.
thank you to you for holding the space.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you might have just shared it, but is there anything that you wish that I had asked or that you would like to say to kind of make this feel more complete for you?
No, I think we rocked it out.
You did too. It was a true pleasure. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you too.
Okay, well, we are going to sign off here. And like I said, if you have any questions for Tosh or you have comments, please leave them here and I'll make sure that she sees them and can get back to you. And like I said, also, please go look for her at toshpatterson.com. there are some great photos of her there, and you'll get a real, if you haven't already gotten a sense of who she is, these photos just bring out her personality, and you'll really get a sense of how much love and joy this woman embodies in this one body. So, all right. I appreciate everyone being here. Let us know if you have any questions, and I will see you again. And as always, I am wishing you wonder. Bye.